For years, Last Man Standing was the kind of show that families loved watching together every Friday night. It had funny moments, strong characters, and heartwarming stories that made viewers feel like they were part of the Baxter family. But over time, things began to change. One by one, the main cast members started leaving, and their replacements didn't feel quite the same. Fans couldn't help but wonder what was really going on behind the scenes. Was it because of creative disagreements, career shifts, or something else entirely? The real story turned out to be more surprising than most people expected. After years away from television, Tim Allen made his big comeback in 2011 with Last Man Standing. It wasn't an easy choice for him. Before this, he had turned down several major offers, including one from CBS that would have paid him a massive $1 million per episode. But Last Man Standing was different. The show's creator, Jack Burdett, had imagined a new kind of character for Allen to play, someone who felt like an older and wiser version of his famous home improvement character, Tim the Toolman Taylor. At first, Tim Allen didn't want to do it. He thought the role was too similar to what he had already done before. He actually said no 3 times. What finally convinced him was a deal that gave him more creative freedom. Not only would he star in the show, but he would also serve as an executive producer, which meant he could have a real say in how the story and tone of the show developed. That control turned out to be very important later on, especially when the series began to explore political and social topics that sparked strong reactions from both sides of the audience. ABC, the network behind the show, had big expectations for Last Man Standing. They wanted it to be a modern version of All in the Family, the classic sitcom known for tackling political and family debates in a humorous way. The idea was to have a conservative main character, Mike Baxter, played by Allen, whose traditional views would often be challenged by the women in his family. The show was placed in a tough Friday night time slot, a period when many networks avoided airing big comedies. But ABC hoped Tim Allen's fan base would help the show succeed. Their gamble paid off. When the show premiered in October 2011, more than 13 million people tuned in, making it ABC's biggest comedy debut since 2004. It was an immediate hit, especially with audiences aged 18 to 49, a group that advertisers care about most. For a Friday night sitcom, that kind of success was almost unheard of. Over the next 6 seasons, Last Man Standing continued to do well, averaging more than 8 million viewers per episode. That's why so many fans were stunned when ABC suddenly canceled it in 2017. Even more surprising were the cast changes that happened along the way. In the very first season, Alexandra Krosny played Kristen Baxter, the oldest daughter of Tim Allen's character. Kristen was a single mother who had her son, Boyd, when she was just 17 years old. She worked as a waitress and lived with her parents while trying to raise her child and figure out her future. Viewers loved how Alexandra made Kristen feel authentic. She was funny, quick-witted, and strong, but she also showed the emotional struggles of being a young mom. Her back-and-forth scenes with Tim Allen were some of the most memorable in the early episodes. Then, out of nowhere, ABC announced that Krosny would not be returning for season 2. The official reason was creative differences, but the truth was more complex. The producers wanted to change Kristen's storyline. Instead of focusing on her as a struggling young mom trying to find her way, they wanted to show her as someone older and more experienced, a woman with stronger opinions who could go head-to-head with her dad on politics and family values. To make this shift work, they decided to recast the role. Amanda Fuller stepped in to play the new, older version of Kristen Baxter. Another reason for the change had to do with how the 3 Baxter sisters looked on screen. Even though Kristen was supposed to be the oldest, Alexandra Krosny was actually younger than Molly Ephraim, who played Mandy, the middle sister. The producers thought the age difference made things look a little off. Amanda Fuller, who was older than both of them, seemed like a better fit to play the eldest sibling. This wasn't the only major change the show faced. Over time, other key cast members also left, sometimes because of scheduling conflicts, new projects, or creative decisions made by the network. For fans, these changes were tough to accept because Last Man Standing had a special charm when the original cast was together. Every member brought something unique to the table, and their chemistry was what made the show feel so real. Behind the scenes, tensions sometimes grew because of the show's political themes. Tim Allen's character, Mike Baxter, was written as a conservative man in a modern, progressive household. Some critics thought the show leaned too far in one direction, while others praised it for offering a rare viewpoint on network television. Allen himself once said that the political angle was never meant to be extreme, it was just a reflection of how real families talk and disagree at home. But controversy around the show may have played a role in ABC's surprising decision to cancel it in 2017, despite its solid ratings. The cancellation caused a public outcry. Fans flooded social media demanding that the show return. Many believe the decision had political motives, though ABC denied that. After a year off the air, Fox picked up Last Man Standing in 2018, giving it a new life. Most of the main cast returned, including Tim Allen, Nancy Travis, who played his wife Vanessa, and Amanda Fuller, but not everyone came back. Molly Ephraim, who had played Mandy Baxter since the beginning, chose not to return due to scheduling conflicts. The role was recast again, this time with Molly McCook taking over. The show continued for 3 more seasons on Fox, and while some fans missed the original cast members, others appreciated that the heart of the show was still there. It still focused on family, faith, humor, and the everyday challenges that come with raising kids and staying true to your values. By the time Last Man Standing ended in 2021 after 9 seasons, it had become one of the longest-running sitcoms on network television, an impressive run for a show that had once been canceled unexpectedly. Looking back, the story of Last Man Standing is a mix of success, controversy, and resilience. It proved that audiences still love family-centered sitcoms with honest humor and real conversations about life. Even with cast changes and network switches, the show kept its core spirit alive. Tim Allen's decision to take the role, his influence as an executive producer, and the chemistry of the cast helped the show survive nearly a decade on air. In the end, Last Man Standing wasn't just about Mike Baxter or his daughters, it was about what it means to hold a family together through change, disagreement, and growth. And while fans may still miss the original faces that made them laugh in the early seasons, the legacy of the show remains one of loyalty, laughter, and love for a story that always felt like home. Nick Jonas made a surprise appearance on Last Man Standing as Ryan Vogelson, the ex-boyfriend of Kristen Baxter and the father of her baby. At the time, Jonas was only 19 years old, and his casting was meant to grab attention and boost ratings during a special Christmas episode. In that episode, Ryan suddenly returns to town after being gone for a long time. He's portrayed as a nervous, immature teenager who ran away from his responsibilities. The show described him as a numbskull who got Kristen pregnant and disappeared. Jonas's version of Ryan was simple and not very developed, but it created quite a buzz among viewers who were surprised to see the pop star playing such a flawed character. When the second season began, things changed under the new showrunner, Tim Doyle. Doyle wanted Ryan to be more than just a foolish or irresponsible dad. He saw potential in turning the character into someone deeper and more complex, a man who could challenge Mike Baxter's strong, conservative views. The plan was to make Ryan a regular part of the show, giving him more meaningful connections with the Baxter family. But even with that plan in place, Doyle knew the character needed a fresh start. In 2012, actor Jordan Masterson took over the role of Ryan. Masterson, who had gained recognition from his work on the show Greek, completely reinvented the character. His version of Ryan was much smarter, more confident, and outspoken about his political beliefs. He wasn't just the scared teenager viewers had seen before, he was now a grown man who could go toe-to-toe with Mike Baxter in debates about big issues like family values, economics, and personal freedom. This new version of Ryan gave the show more depth. Instead of just being Kristen's ex-boyfriend, Ryan became a fully developed character with his own perspective and growth. Over time, audiences saw him evolve from an uncertain young father into a responsible man who cared deeply for his family. He even became an entrepreneur, running his own cannabis business called Bud's Buds. The show often used this storyline for humor, showing how Ryan, once a passionate liberal critic of capitalism, slowly began to act like a businessman himself. Mike Baxter found this irony hilarious and never missed a chance to tease him about it. By the mid-2010s, Last Man Standing had settled into a rhythm. The show was performing extremely well, pulling in more than 8 million viewers per episode. It had a loyal fan base and dominated the tough Friday night slot, which is usually a challenging time for TV shows. That's why fans were stunned when, in May 2017, ABC suddenly announced that it was canceling Last Man Standing. The decision came out of nowhere. This wasn't a struggling show, it was one of ABC's top-performing comedies, consistently ranking high in the ratings. Everyone assumed it would easily be renewed for another season. The timing made the cancellation even more confusing. Just 2 months earlier, Tim Allen had appeared on Jimmy Kimmel Live and made a comment that stirred up controversy. He joked that being a conservative in Hollywood felt like living in 1930s Germany. Many people wondered if that remark had something to do with the network's decision to cancel the show. ABC, however, denied that politics played a role. Channing Dungey, the president of ABC Entertainment at the time, said the decision wasn't political at all. She explained that ABC wanted to move away from comedies on Friday nights and instead focus on fantasy and science fiction shows. But to the fans, and even to the cast, that explanation didn't feel convincing. For many of them, it seemed like something deeper was going on. The cast didn't hide their disappointment. Tim Allen went on Twitter to say that he felt stunned and blindsided by the cancellation. Nancy Travis, who played his on-screen wife Vanessa, shared her sadness online and thanked fans for their loyalty. Hector Elizondo, who played Ed, hinted in an interview that he believed politics might have played some part in the network's decision. While the older cast members were upset, the younger actors like Molly Ephraim, Mandy, and Kaitlyn Dever, Eve, started moving on with their careers. Since the show was officially canceled, they began accepting new roles and didn't expect Last Man Standing to ever return. But the fans weren't ready to let go. Within 24 hours of the cancellation, a massive campaign to save the show began online. Fans created petitions, flooded social media, and made #SaveLastManStanding trend worldwide on Twitter. One petition gathered more than 400,000 signatures in just a few days. Fans were determined to show ABC how much the show meant to them. Some even sent toy tools to the network's offices as a nod to Tim Allen's handyman character, Mike Baxter. Others went as far as paying for billboards in major cities like Los Angeles and New York, demanding that ABC bring the show back. Even politicians got involved. Wisconsin Governor Scott Walker publicly questioned whether the cancellation was politically motivated, given the show's conservative themes and Allen's outspoken comments. Whether or not that was true, the pressure from fans and public figures was enormous. Behind the scenes, there were also financial reasons for ABC's decision. Producing Last Man Standing was expensive. Because it was made by 20th Century Fox Television, ABC had to pay the studio roughly $3 million per episode for the rights to air it. On top of that, Tim Allen's salary, reported to be over $200,000 per episode, added to the cost. These expenses made the show less profitable for ABC, even though it had strong ratings. After the cancellation, executives at 20th Century Fox began shopping the show around to other networks. They contacted CMT and NBC, hoping one of them would agree to continue it. For a while, it seemed like Last Man Standing might truly be over, but the fan demand never stopped. People kept tweeting, writing letters, and posting online about how much they missed the show. Finally, a year later, something incredible happened. On May 11, 2018, Fox officially announced that they were reviving Last Man Standing. The news made headlines everywhere, and fans celebrated across social media. Tim Allen called the revival a blessing and said he couldn't wait to bring Mike Baxter and the Baxter family back to television. When Fox brought the show back, most of the original cast returned, including Nancy Travis, Amanda Fuller, and Hector Elizondo. However, a few familiar faces didn't come back. Molly Ephraim, for instance, was unavailable because she had moved on to other projects, so the role of Mandy was recast with actress Molly McCook. The revival proved that the show still had plenty of life left in it. It continued to explore family relationships, political humor, and everyday struggles in a relatable way. Fox aired new seasons until 2021, giving Last Man Standing an impressive total of 9 seasons across 2 networks. What started as a surprise cancellation ended as one of the most remarkable comebacks in television history, all thanks to the fans' passion and determination to keep their favorite family on the air. Bringing Last Man Standing back to television wasn't just about giving in to fan demand, it was also a smart business move by Fox. The network had seen how successful ABC's Roseanne revival had been, drawing in millions of viewers and proving that audiences still loved family sitcoms with familiar faces. Fox saw this as a perfect opportunity to achieve the same success with Last Man Standing. So, they decided to take a big risk and spent nearly $50 million to make the revival happen. A few days before the official announcement, Tim Allen hinted that something exciting was coming. He posted a cryptic message on Twitter telling fans to keep it up, suggesting that a deal was already in progress. When Fox finally announced the revival in May 2018, fans were thrilled. But for the production team, the real work had just begun. The timeline to bring the show back was incredibly tight. The premiere was set for September, just a few months away. Writers began working on new scripts in June, leaving them only about 15 weeks to prepare everything. Filming started in August at the same studio where the original series had been shot. However, there was a major problem. The old Last Man Standing sets had been dismantled after the 2017 cancellation. That meant the crew had to rebuild everything from scratch, including the Baxter family home and Mike's workplace, Outdoor Man. To meet the deadline, they filmed as many as 3 episodes a week, working long hours to get everything ready in time. The pressure didn't end there. When the COVID-19 pandemic hit later, production faced even more difficulties, with delays, new safety protocols, and the challenge of keeping the cast and crew healthy. Despite these setbacks, Fox was determined to make sure the revival lived up to fans' expectations. The network spent even more money than before to ensure high production quality. Each episode now cost about $1.1 million to make, up from around $800,000 during the ABC years. Tim Allen's salary also increased. He earned roughly $235,000 per episode, placing him among the highest-paid actors on television at the time. To balance the high costs, Fox made smart financial moves, like selling streaming rights to Hulu and CMT for about $1.5 million per episode. The production team also found creative ways to save money, such as cutting down on location shoots and filming more efficiently on set. All the hard work paid off. The first season of Last Man Standing on Fox drew around 8 million viewers, proving that fans were still loyal to the show. The premiere episode's strong ratings were a clear sign that audiences had missed the Baxter family. But even though the revival was a success, there were still challenges ahead, especially when it came to the cast. One of the biggest hurdles involved recasting key roles. When ABC canceled the show in 2017, actress Molly Ephraim, who had played Mandy Baxter for 6 seasons, believed the series was over for good. Like many other cast members, she didn't wait around. She moved on quickly and signed up for new projects, including Brockmire with Hank Azaria and Halt and Catch Fire. So, when Fox decided to bring Last Man Standing back a year later, Molly Ephraim was already busy with other commitments and couldn't return to play Mandy. The producers had a tough decision to make. They didn't want someone who would simply imitate Ephraim's version of Mandy, nor did they want a look-alike. They wanted a fresh take on the character, someone who could bring her own energy and personality to the role. After a long search, they chose actress Molly McCook. McCook didn't look like Ephraim at all, which immediately stood out to fans. Instead of trying to hide the change, the show decided to have fun with it. They included lighthearted jokes about Mandy's new look in the episodes, embracing the difference rather than pretending nothing had changed. However, when McCook first appeared as Mandy in Season 7, many longtime viewers weren't happy. social media filled up with complaints, and some fans even started using the hashtag #NotMyMandy to express their disappointment. They missed Ephraim's bubbly and sassy version of the character. Despite the backlash, Molly McCook stayed focused. She didn't try to copy Ephraim's performance. Instead, she made the role her own, highlighting Mandy's creative side, her love for fashion, and her dream of becoming a designer. The writers helped her by giving Mandy more mature and emotional storylines, such as her struggles during pregnancy and her relationship with her husband, Kyle. Over time, audiences began to warm up to McCook's portrayal. Her chemistry with the rest of the cast, especially Tim Allen, became one of the show's strengths. In several heartfelt scenes between Mike and Mandy, McCook showed a deeper, more grown-up version of the character, and fans started to appreciate how she had evolved. By the later seasons, most viewers agreed that she had done an excellent job bringing new life to the role. Molly Ephraim wasn't the only cast member who moved on after the show's cancellation. Kaitlyn Dever, who played Eve Baxter, also became busy with other projects. Dever's career was taking off fast. She starred in hit films and award-winning shows like Booksmart and Unbelievable. Because of her growing success, she couldn't commit to a full-time role when Last Man Standing was revived. The writers found a creative solution to explain her absence. In the show, Eve's character was said to be away at the Air Force Academy, which fit perfectly with her strong, independent personality. Kaitlyn Dever still made guest appearances from time to time, keeping her connection to the show alive even though she wasn't a regular cast member anymore. Through all these challenges, tight production schedules, recasting key characters, pandemic delays, and high costs, Last Man Standing managed to thrive again. It proved that the show's magic wasn't just in one actor or one version of a character, but in the heart of the story itself. The Baxter family's humor, love, and arguments continued to reflect real-life families everywhere, and that's what kept people watching. The revival became one of Fox's biggest comedy successes, earning strong ratings for several seasons. Fans appreciated that the network had listened to them and brought back a show that felt comforting and familiar. By the time Last Man Standing ended in 2021 after 9 seasons, it had become a symbol of resilience, a show that refused to fade away and came back stronger than ever, thanks to the passion of its fans, the dedication of its cast, and the belief that sometimes, second chances are worth the fight. Had a hard time deciding when to end the show. The team loved working together, and the cast had become like family. But after 9 seasons, the creators felt it was time to wrap things up while the show was still strong. They didn't want it to drag on and lose its charm. Ending on a high note seemed like the best way to honor the fans in the story. Fox agreed, saying it was better to finish the series with a proper goodbye rather than risk future cancellations. As they started planning the final season, the writers faced the challenge of closing storylines that had been running for years. They wanted every character to get a satisfying ending that felt real and meaningful. Tim Allen, who played Mike Baxter, said it was an emotional process for everyone. After spending nearly a decade together, saying goodbye was not easy. The cast shared that filming the last few episodes felt like the end of an era. They laughed, cried, and reminisced about how far the show had come since its start in 2011. The final season also had to deal with restrictions caused by the COVID-19 pandemic. The production team worked under strict safety rules, including regular testing, smaller crews, and social distancing on set. Despite these difficulties, the team was determined to keep the same warm and funny tone that fans loved. Some episodes even reflected real-life events like the pandemic and its impact on family life. The writers used humor and heart to show how the Baxter family adapted to the challenges, which made the final season even more relatable. Tim Allen had a particularly special experience in the last season when he played both Mike Baxter and his famous character Tim Taylor from his earlier show Home Improvement. It was a nostalgic moment for fans who had followed Allen's career for decades. The crossover episode was one of the most talked about moments of the season, giving longtime viewers a touching reminder of how much Allen had contributed to television comedy. Throughout its final episodes, Last Man Standing focused on family, growth, and change. Mike's daughters, Kristen, Mandy, and Eve, each faced their own challenges as adults and mothers. the writers gave them storylines that showed how they had matured over the years. Kristen managed the outdoor man store, proving her leadership skills. Mandy adjusted to motherhood and found her own style as a designer, while Eve continued her journey in the Air Force. Each of their endings reflected how far they had come since the first season. One of the most emotional parts of the finale was the farewell between Mike and his daughters. Tim Allen later shared in interviews that those scenes were hard to film because they reminded him of real goodbyes in life. He said it felt like letting go of a big part of himself. Nancy Travis, who played his wife Vanessa, also said the end was bittersweet. She felt proud of the show's success and the bond the cast had built, but it was tough to see it end. The finale episode aired on May 20th, 2021, and received a warm response from fans. Many said it gave them closure and celebrated what they loved most about the series: the humor, the family dynamics, and the life lessons woven into every episode. Critics also praised the show for staying true to its message about family values, personal responsibility, and balancing modern life with tradition. Even though Last Man Standing ended, its legacy remains strong. Over 9 seasons, it became one of Fox's most successful comedies and one of the longest-running sitcoms led by Tim Allen. The show's mix of comedy and heart, along with its relatable characters, helped it connect with a wide audience. Fans appreciated how it tackled real-world issues like parenting, work-life balance, and generational differences, all while keeping the tone light and funny. Behind the scenes, the revival of the show had been a major achievement for everyone involved. When ABC canceled the series in 2017, fans launched petitions and social media campaigns to bring it back. Their dedication caught the attention of Fox executives, who saw the opportunity to revive a beloved show with a loyal audience. The gamble paid off. The revived version performed even better than expected, proving that the fan base was still strong. Tim Allen often said that the support from fans was what kept the show alive. In interviews, he thanked them for their loyalty and enthusiasm, saying that without them, the revival would never have happened. He also praised the writers and production team for adapting quickly during tough times, especially during the pandemic. When the series finally ended, many cast members shared emotional posts online. Molly McCook wrote about how grateful she was to have joined the show, saying that stepping into Mandy's shoes had been a challenge but also a privilege. Kaitlyn Dever thanked the team for giving her one of her first major roles and said she would always be proud to have been part of the Baxter family. Nancy Travis said she would miss working with Tim Allen, calling him one of the kindest and funniest people she had ever met. Even years after the finale, Last Man Standing continues to find new audiences through streaming platforms like Hulu and CMT. Its timeless themes and family-focused humor make it a comfort show for many people. The chemistry among the cast, especially between Tim Allen and Nancy Travis, remains one of its biggest strengths. In the end, the show's journey, from being canceled to revived, and then ending on its own terms, is a story of resilience. It showed that when a series connects deeply with its audience, it can survive even the toughest setbacks. Last Man Standing proved that good storytelling and genuine characters can stand the test of time. For Tim Allen, the experience was more than just another TV role. It was a reflection of his own life, both as a comedian and as a father. He said that the show allowed him to express real parts of himself and that playing Mike Baxter was one of the most meaningful experiences of his career. The cast and crew left the set for the last time knowing they had created something special. They had told stories that made people laugh, think, and feel connected. The final episode wasn't just the end of a sitcom, it was a celebration of everything Last Man Standing stood for: family, faith, love, and laughter. And while the Baxter family's story may have ended on television, the spirit of the show lives on through the fans who still watch, quote, and talk about it today. For many viewers, it remains a reminder of the importance of holding on to what truly matters: home, family, and the people who stand by you through every challenge. The team behind Last Man Standing had already started planning for a potential 10th season before the show officially ended. One of their biggest ideas was to have Amanda Fuller's character, Kristen Baxter, take over the family business, Outdoor Man, and rename it Outdoor Woman. This idea would have symbolized the passing of the torch to a new generation, showing how the Baxter family business evolved over time. The storyline would have explored themes like leadership, legacy, and how family traditions adapt to modern values. The writers believed it could have given fans a fresh perspective while keeping the same family warmth the show was known for. They also hoped to bring back some fan-favorite guest stars, including Jonathan Taylor Thomas and Richard Karn, who had both made memorable appearances in earlier seasons. The goal was to weave their characters into new storylines that would honor the show's history and reward longtime fans. Each returning guest would have been part of a special arc connecting the Baxter family's story to familiar faces from the past, creating both nostalgia and excitement. As production for the 9th and final season began, showrunner Kevin Abbott revealed that Fox executives wanted to make the ending feel big and unforgettable. At first, Abbott was hesitant. He believed that Last Man Standing worked best when it focused on small, relatable, family-centered stories rather than flashy events. But then, one of the show's writers, John Hauer, came up with an idea that changed everything. What if they brought back Tim the Toolman Taylor, Tim Allen's iconic character from Home Improvement? The idea sparked excitement among both the writers and fans once it leaked online. Over the years, people had often joked about how similar Mike Baxter and Tim Taylor were. Having both characters appear together in the same show seemed like a perfect way to celebrate Tim Allen's television legacy. The writers began brainstorming ways to make it happen. They even discussed creating a shared universe between Home Improvement and Last Man Standing, where they could reveal what happened to the Taylor family after Home Improvement ended. There were several ambitious crossover ideas that unfortunately never made it past the planning stage. One concept was to do a Tool Time reunion special within the Last Man Standing world, bringing back the entire Home Improvement cast for a nostalgic and humorous episode. Another idea was to reveal that Mike Baxter was distantly related to Tim Taylor, which would have opened the door for a fun family connection storyline. The writers also planned a Christmas special that would have united cast members from both shows in a heartfelt holiday episode, blending the humor and warmth of both series. However, these ideas were complicated to execute. Legal and studio issues made things difficult. Home Improvement was owned by Disney, while Last Man Standing was produced by Fox, meaning both studios had to agree on the crossover. Negotiations dragged on for weeks as lawyers worked through contracts, rights, and creative permissions. Some plans had to be dropped entirely because of these legal barriers. It wasn't until the very last minute that they got approval to use Tim Taylor's character. In fact, Abbott later shared that Disney didn't officially sign off on the crossover until the day before the script reading. At one point, he even threatened to move forward without Disney's permission to avoid delays. When everything was finally settled, the writers got to work crafting the perfect storyline. They wanted the crossover to feel natural and respectful, not just a gimmick. Tim Allen also had a few conditions before agreeing to play both roles. He wanted Tim Taylor's character to be treated with respect and given a believable reason to appear in the Last Man Standing universe. He didn't want the crossover to feel forced or make fun of his old character. The writing team rewrote the episode 3 times to get it right, ensuring that both Mike Baxter and Tim Taylor were distinct, authentic, and emotionally grounded. Tim Allen took his preparation seriously. To make sure he got Tim Taylor's mannerisms and voice right, he went back and rewatched several episodes of Home Improvement. He wanted fans to instantly recognize the Toolman while also seeing how he had aged and changed over the years. It was important to him that viewers could clearly tell the difference between the two characters, both in personality and behavior. The crossover episode, titled Dual Time, featured clever references to Home Improvement. There were nods to Tim's old TV show, Tool Time, as well as mentions of Wilson, the beloved neighbor character from the original series. The episode even revealed what Tim Taylor had been doing since Home Improvement ended, offering closure for fans who had wondered about his life after the show. In the story, Tim Taylor visits Colorado to meet Mike Baxter, believing that the two men have a lot in common. Their interactions were filled with humor and heart. They discussed work, family, and how times had changed since the 90s. There were moments of nostalgia as well as genuine emotion, especially when Tim Taylor talked about missing Wilson, whose actor, Earl Hindman, had passed away in real life. The writers used this to create a touching moment about friendship and loss that resonated deeply with viewers. Fans absolutely loved the crossover. When the episode aired, social media lit up with excitement and praise. Many longtime fans of Tim Allen's work called it one of the most memorable and emotional episodes in Last Man Standing's history. Critics also noted how skillfully the writers blended humor and sentiment, making the crossover feel like a meaningful tribute rather than a publicity stunt. The episode also gave Last Man Standing a ratings boost, drawing in both old Home Improvement fans and newer viewers who had followed Mike Baxter's story. For Tim Allen, it was a career highlight. He later said that playing both characters side by side was surreal and emotional, almost like looking back at his own life. It reminded him how much time had passed and how much he had grown as both an actor and a person. Even though a 10th season never happened, the crossover gave the show a sense of completion. It tied together Tim Allen's two biggest TV roles in a way that honored his legacy and gave fans something truly special. Kevin Abbott later said that it felt like the perfect full-circle moment, connecting two beloved sitcoms that had shaped American television for decades. In the end, the Home Improvement crossover became one of the proudest moments in Last Man Standing's run. It symbolized everything that made the show successful: clever humor, heartfelt storytelling, and a deep appreciation for its audience. While the dream of Outdoor Woman and a 10th season never came to life, the crossover ensured that Last Man Standing ended on a high note, one that celebrated its past, honored its roots, and left fans smiling.